And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're on. So, how many times have you been to Disney?
Oh boy, sheesh. It's in the hundreds. So, I mean, I was born and raised in Florida, and my mom kind of used it as like basically a big playground. She just would drop us off and let us kind of roam around. But I think the first time I went, I was probably, yeah, one or 2 years old. I've seen the pictures. I don't remember it, but I look like I was having a good time.
You know, so people hear the dark side of Disney, and I walked away from it kind of, yeah, you were looking for new thrills as you became an adult. Maybe not
Yeah.
so many good thrills, and not all the thrills that Disney would always love, but I think you were just a grown-up looking, you know, here's another side of it all. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. You can only go on, Space Mountain so many times before it stops being thrilling. And I had an annual pass, or a three-season salute pass they had at the time, and I would go there, dozens of times a year, and it did. It got a little old. It got a little boring, and me being a naturally curious and inquisitive person started thinking, how are the magic tricks done? What's behind the scenes? Like, I've been seeing, the way I kind of describe it is, I've been living in this house for 30 years or 20 years, whatever, and I'd never been in the basement. And it started to seem kind of weird because I knew the place like the back of my hand. I could walk around just by the smells and the sounds with my eyes closed. And when I found out that there was this whole other side to the parks, these underground tunnels, these behind the scene things, I got so intrigued and so fascinated by that.
Okay, dude, so of all the crazy and illegal things you've done there or your friends have done, I think one of the things that fascinated me and people, I don't know, I guess they sort of talk about there. By the way, I'm at Disney almost every week.
Okay.
I go with my family, love it like you do, and think it's truly one of the cool places just to go walk around and hang out and whatever. But the underground tunnels,
Yeah.
talk about that. You've been down there.
Yeah, and this was pre-internet, so it just wasn't. No one knew about it, and I had heard rumors from friends of mine who had started working there, and they were like, "There's all these tunnels, and there's secret doors, and they're hidden in plain sight." And again, I've been to this park, however many times, and never knew this, never saw any doors. And they really are hidden in plain sight. They just look like part of the scenery or part of the architecture. And the first time I went down there, my mind was blown. There's a whole city underneath that park. It's absolutely.
Yeah, so real quickly, in case people are joining us, I want them to understand underneath Disney World,
Underneath the
Epcot, Magic Kingdom, there are tunnels underneath so that workers and characters and that aren't seen walking across the park. They're literally underground.
That's right. So because Florida is on, below sea level, they couldn't actually dig underground. So the utilidors are actually the first level of the park, and then the Magic Kingdom is the second level. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's for the employees who can go get their costumes, get changed, walk from one part of the park to the other without being. Walt's example was he didn't want to see a cowboy in Tomorrowland. So they can duck under the tunnels and go out into Frontierland. There's employee cafeteria down there, a bank down there, just everything you could think of. It really is an entire city. Epcot's got a smaller version of that, and now, so back then, I was sneaking in there. It was totally unauthorized. Now you can actually pay to take a tour. It doesn't go through the whole thing, but if you want to pay the money now, you can do that, and you can actually see a part of that, which I think is really cool.
Leonard, you paved the way. See?
Well, I guess they figured if people want to see it, then they might as well make money off of it.
So did you get caught when you were down there, or were you able to get out and nobody really knew what happened?
No, I got caught all the time. And back then they were a little more lenient. I would just play you know, like it was my first day of work and I was lost. Some people would feel bad for me and kind of show me around. Nowadays, because of what I've done, because of the book, because of the videos, every cast member is required to have a badge showing at all times when they're under there. And managers are told if they see someone without it, they need to stop them. And they really do that. That's not a joke. So the days when you can just walk down there are gone. And I should preface all of this by saying, don't do what I did, because you can get in trouble. It is trespassing. You can get banned for life. They don't joke around. I mean, Disney security is pretty hardcore.
Yeah, and rightfully. So now, what year would this have been then? Since it was pre-internet, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I think the first time I went down there was summer of '95. So I was in college and had come back for the summer, and again was just bored to tears. And that's when I think the videos that I made, some of the videos were actually filmed with a pretty big. At the time, we didn't have, you know, cameras on our phones. It was filmed with a pretty big analog. I think it was a high 8 camera, just kind of held by my side. Wasn't very inconspicuous, but not like anyone at the time expected someone to be bringing a video.
Steven Spielberg in the tunnels before his time.
That's right.
So what did you see? Anything? Or was it just, you know?
No,
right.
I think the biggest shock for me was seeing kind of the characters half out of their costumes, you know, Chip or Dale without their head.
Oh, Disney loves that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, Snow White flirting with Goofy, and I was just really impressed by how big it was. Golf carts are zooming around constantly in there. The other thing is it smells really bad. Because in the Magic Kingdom, they use pneumatic pipes for taking the garbage. The garbage gets sucked down into these pipes, and it goes down into the underground. So the tubes, I don't think, are sealed very well, and as a result, a lot of the places in the utilidors smell like trash.
Probably if they're taking tours down there now, they've probably put some deodorizers or something down there. I'm sure someone can comment on it. All right, so the tunnels. What else did you discover in terms of the dark side of Disney?
You know, I think a lot of the things that I talk about in the book are kind of tips and tricks that Disney just doesn't want. They don't want you to know about. They're not necessarily illegal, but they're not things they're gonna tell you about. Like, and again, once the book and the videos came out, they started clamping down on a lot of this. But like getting free parking, you know, parking is crazy expensive there.
Do you know? You know what it is? I think it's $25. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's $25. I will say that there are, if you look on Google Maps, there are apartments now right behind the Magic Kingdom that people live in. If you somehow find yourself in those near those apartments, there might or might not be some roads that lead into the Magic Kingdom from there. So again, taking the back ways, looking at Google Maps, kind of seeing, you know, what roads go where. That can be worth exploring.
Well, I'm just thinking about your parking idea. If I parked at an apartment complex, then I gotta walk into the Magic Kingdom. What, through the how would you even get in? I'm just thinking. I mean, how would you walk through the parking area then at the Magic Kingdom and then?
Magic Kingdom's the way to go, because from Magic Kingdom you can get Epcot by the monorail. Yeah, and you know, a lot of people for Epcot and Hollywood Studios will go to the resorts like the Boardwalk or the Beach Club and say, hey, I'm going to have a drink at the brewery, or I'm going to have a bite to eat at Beaches and Cream. And they'll let you park at the resort for, they say it's only supposed to be for 3 hours or whatever, but they don't really check. So park at the resort and then just, again, you know, walk in the back entrance from Epcot, or take the monorail over to Magic Kingdom. There's always ways to get around the system, but I will say they've made it a lot harder, due in no small part to people like me in management.
So in all those years, did you ever get thrown out? Did you ever get banned? Did they ever say, hey, we don't like you around here. This is not good for business?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely escalated at one point where they were on the lookout for me, and it definitely got pretty intense there for a while. They definitely wanted me, and yeah, they ended up getting me. It took them a while, but I tell you what, Disney security, those guys they're pros. I mean, they they've got every bit of technology at their fingertips that they can leverage to. If they want to find out who you are, they're going to find out who you are. If they want to catch you, they'll catch you eventually. They're good at what they do, and yeah, yeah. Again, this is why I don't recommend that anyone follows in my footsteps. Unless you want to get kicked out and banned, then it's just not worth it.
You were like the guy in Vegas counting cards. You're the guy that walked in the casino and all the cameras started focusing on him. There he is. There he is. Don't let him come to the
Yep.
tables.
Yeah. Yeah. They do have what they call it a be on the lookout. It's the short version is BOLO. They have a BOLO list. Be on the lookout for, and it's like a most wanted pictures on their internal employee website, and that gets updated every day. And so employees, all the cast members know, be on the lookout for these people. And that's a real thing. Yeah, they don't mess around.
Let's talk about drinking at Disney. I have to say some of your ideas. I what do I want to say? I support.
Okay.
I know you and your friends. There's some videos of you, and you guys are, pouring drinks there. Maybe not necessarily bringing your own alcohol in, but of course, don't do that. It's a shame I live in a society where I have to tell people not to do stuff. But then you look at it. I think Disney must have this. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think Disney must have this debate at least once a year in a boardroom. It must be a tough thing for them because they do want to keep this squeaky clean image. There's no question about it. And I understand that, a family image. But the amount of money that they must be missing on alcohol has to be astounding. And people, I think people want it there. I really do. I think that's proof. You can go to, most of the other parks except for Magic Kingdom. I think there's maybe one place in Magic Kingdom that you can get it, maybe some beer. What's your thoughts on it? You think Disney over time will have drinking? Do you think it'll eventually there'll be bars just like anywhere else?
I, Magic Kingdom was the last holdout. Well, I shouldn't say that. Disneyland is the last holdout. They are slowly allowing alcohol to be sold in the Magic Kingdom. Not like it is at Epcot, or there's not like beer stands, but at the expensive sit-down restaurants, you can order wine or you can order expensive beer. And you're right. I mean, there was such a demand for it. That they were just missing out on so much money. And back in the day, and again, this was before they had the scanners that they do now, but we would bring in the little airplane bottles of booze, because one of my favorite things was a Dole Whip float with Malibu rum in it. So good, just a great concoction. And by not serving that, they were definitely losing money, obviously, but also not giving their customers what they wanted. And so, from what I've heard, like I said, Disneyland's the last holdout on this. It's Walt's park. Walt didn't want alcohol in his park, but the new Star Wars land is going to have a cantina that does serve alcoholic beverages. So.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those. It's got to be one of those weird things for them that they must debate this over and over.
Yeah.
And the further and further we get away from Walt and the family, which listen, the guy's was a genius. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he really had some neat ideas, and it was a different time too. The 50s.
Yep.
And I don't know. Maybe bringing alcohol in would, maybe people are going to get in barroom fights or something. But I don't think so. I think people can control themselves and have a few drinks and enjoy Space Mountain.
Yeah, I mean, Epcot's had alcohol since day one, and as a local, you've probably seen on the weekends it can get a little rowdy. People do get drunk, but that's the exception to the rule. I would say 99.99% of people are totally fine with it. And you know what? When someone does get a little rowdy, that's what Disney security's for, and they handle it. So I don't think it's as big of an issue. And again, like, you're totally right. It was a different time. Things have changed a lot, and I think good for them for slowly phasing it in, not just all at once. They didn't do it all at once at Magic Kingdom. They're testing the waters, seeing how it works, seeing how people react to it, and I think it's working out for them. But yeah, I mean, that was always kind of my thing. I love it.
Yeah, can you imagine the amount of revenue, the potential revenue from that? I mean, I just can't even imagine. I mean, It's got to be like a golden goose sitting there, and they just must be scratching their heads going, why can't we be Universal Studios?
And again, Universal started off with that kind of edgy attitude. So they just have booze everywhere from day one.
Right.
It's just part of their brand almost. But yeah, you're right. I mean, gosh, you're buying basically what amounts to $1 beer for $12 at Disney and Universal now. The markup is incredible, and it is a gold mine. And you're exactly right. There's people in accounting going, "Come on, guys, seriously?" Like,
yeah. Well, it's just like when I go to concerts these days, it's the same thing. I swear to goodness that they could charge. Well, they do. They charge me $15, $20 for a drink, and you're gonna pay it.
Yep.
I mean, you're going to pay it. No, I mean, honestly, they could charge you $20 for, a rum and Coke at Disney, and I bet everyone would pay for it. Nobody would give a crap.
No, you're on vacation. That part of your brain's supposed to turn off when you're on vacation. People pay it.
All right, so tell us a few things in the book, sort of teasers that we don't know about Disney, things you found out, a couple things that, I don't know, let people know that they might not know about.
Another thing that I think a lot of people don't take advantage of are the resorts. One of these things that when I got bored of the parks, I realized, well, the resorts are just as well themed as the parks are. So I would do. There's one that I did, the monorail bar crawl. So the monorail around Magic Kingdom goes to the Polynesian, the Contemporary, the Grand Floridian. Each one of those places have really incredibly well themed bars. So I would spend a night just hopping on the monorail, going to one of the resorts, going to all the bars in there, going to another one, and that makes for a really fun evening. And you don't even have to pay admission to get into the parks.
What's your thoughts about the future of Disney, and more specifically, pricing? Like me, the wife, we get the yearly pass, and it's getting crazy expensive. Like we said, each time you go parking now, it's $25 to get into the parks, at least between $100 and $150. I mean, does that mean in 20 years it's going to be $300 to get in? I mean, like, do you think there's a threshold where people will go, all right, that's enough. I'm not going there with my family. I'm not spending $500 a night to stay in a hotel on Disney property. What's your thoughts?
I do think there's a threshold. I think they're already pricing out the middle class, which is unfortunate. But the problem they have, and I guess it's a good problem to have, is that attendance at the parks keeps increasing. And, just over the past 10 years, you can see, used to be October, November, you could go and get in line for any ride and there wasn't a wait. That was the downtime. No one was there then. There really isn't a downtime anymore. It's always crowded. And, their solution to that, to keeping the crowds at a manageable level, is to just keep increasing the prices. So far, it doesn't seem to be keeping people from, it doesn't seem to be reducing the crowds. People are still paying it. But like I said, what you're doing is you're definitely starting to price out the middle class, the kind of people who would take their whole family to Disney once a year, or save up for 3 years to finally be able to afford that vacation. Those people aren't able to afford it anymore. And And that's really unfortunate. And you want to talk about what Walt would have hated. Walt would have hated that. You know, his solution would have been build another park, add more rides. You know, we've got the blessing of size, he called it. All the space you want in the world. Just make more attractions so that the park still seems less crowded. They're not. They're doing it now a little bit more, but not nearly as fast as they need to.
Do you remember like your first? I don't know. In the 90s, was it still? Do you remember the e-tickets and the little book of tickets you'd get? Like I think it was like A. Isn't that where the term e-ticket came from? Isn't that where we started using that term? But you used to get a booklet, and you'd only get to be able to go on the submarine ride or the auto cars or whatever so many times, and then it was like two times or whatever.
The really in-demand rides you didn't get very many tickets for. The ones that were just people eaters that you could, you know, as the whole park could go on them at once, basically. You got plenty of tickets for those. And then, if I remember correctly, you could buy more tickets. Yeah, you know, my impression is I don't think they're going to go back to that model, but I do think they're going to start having paid fast passes where you can pay more to get more fast passes for those big e-ticket rides. And
I think they already have. I think there's an exclusive service. In fact, I just found out about it a couple weeks. I think they have that over at, maybe it's at all the parks, but it's real expensive. It's sort of this elite service that you get a certain amount of unlimited fast passes each month or something. I don't know all the details, but it's real expensive. But I think you're right. I think that's where it's going.
Yeah, and you know, it's going to be, talk about crazy when the Star Wars land opens. Man, it's going to be insanely crowded. You know, I know people who are saying they're just not even going to bother going there for the first year or two that it's open because they know it's just going to be ridiculously crowded. And, you know, there's not a whole lot they can do about that. So, yeah, it's a conundrum. But you're right. It's so expensive now. It's so expensive. Everything.
I do.
Everything.
I mean, I'm sounding old, but I think about like the poor dad or mom that's got to take their kids to Disneyland or Disney World and then try to afford all this and the shows and dinners, and I mean it's thousands and thousands of dollars now just to make this journey. And like you said, there's still more people coming than ever. So I don't know. It's a weird thing because raising or jacking up the prices doesn't seem to phase people. They're just, okay, well, I guess. Yeah. And, you know, when you look at what the average income is across the United States, it's not like everyone's wealthy, but you'd almost think that they are when you see how many people are at the park.
Yeah, I know. I'll be curious to see how much longer they can keep doing that, because like you, there's got to be a threshold where it drops off significantly. Attendance drops off significantly. But who knows where that is? You know, I thought it was going to be when the tickets broke $100. Nope, that didn't stop it. And every year you get your price increase, and every year people keep paying it. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's an awesome read. I had a lot of fun. Just I don't know, reminded me of being a kid and pranking, and I don't know. You and I have crossed similar paths on certain things, so I enjoyed it. I suggest people watching this check it out. It's kind of fun, and thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you talking.
You're welcome. This is a great conversation. Thanks for having me.